Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Thursday, November 7th, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my college basketball Bank Shop best bet, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Thursday in college hoops. First up, we see Charleston Southern and North Florida. This one's going to be a 7 p.m. Eastern start time on ESPN+. Now, North Florida's coming off in their first game of the season a big-time upset win over South Carolina, an SEC team, and a 74-71 final. We've seen some upset wins for the A-Sun in years prior, and also we see some upset wins in the NCAA tournament from the A-Sun. Florida Gulf Coast was one of those big Cinderella runs about 10 years ago now. But when you look at this Ospreys team, they take a ton of three-point jumpers. Last year, they shot the ball very well from three, a 36% rate, 63rd in the country, but they scored 45.6% of all of their points from the perimeter. That was the most in terms of the point distribution in college basketball. So facing Charleston Southern on the surface, we saw them struggle, the Bucks against Clemson to defend the three. They gave up above 50% from three-point range to Clemson in that game. But I'm actually not overreacting to that one performance from Charleston Southern because last year this was actually an excellent three-point defense, and I believe in this backcourt this season as well. I don't think it's going to change too much. Charleston Southern held teams to a 32% three-point rate. That was 60th best in the country last season, and they only gave up 24% of all their points from three-point jumpers. That was ranked 351st. So that's a bad matchup, in my opinion, for North Florida. It's a letdown spot for the Ospreys after that big upset win. I think it's a good spot here for Charleston Southern to bounce back and at least cover the number, maybe pull off the outright win. Next up, we see Southern Miss and UAB. This one's going to be a 7:30 Eastern start time on ESPN+. This is another situation, and a lot of these games, when we see these teams playing in their second game or third game of the season, I'm looking for overreactions by the betting markets to that first game of the season. We saw UAB lose to Vermont in their opener. We saw Southern Miss have a nice win, a pretty sizable victory over Bowling Green. But I think this is a spot to back UAB. I think this is a very talented team and a rare example in college basketball nowadays of a team that really bought into its program, because we know last year UAB went on a run in the AAC tournament. They won that tournament, went to the NCAA tournament as a 12 seed, lost in that first round, but they were able to return a lot of production from that last year's team. We just don't see that too often with a lot of these, solid schools that have talented players. They move on to these power schools, and UAB has to start over again. But UAB really bought in with Andy Kennedy at coach, and I still think, yes, it was a loss to Vermont, but that's a very good Vermont team, an experienced Vermont team. It was a close game, and it was also a game where UAB did not make a single three-point jumper. They were 0 of 10 from the perimeter, and they were 66% from the free throw line as well. I don't think those poor shooting numbers are going to carry over the rest of the season. Fundamentally, I thought UAB played well. They had 18 offensive rebounds in that game, only turned the ball over 7 times. They put up about 10 more shots in that game compared to Vermont. So I think UAB bounces back, and I think they win this game. But when you look at Southern Miss on the other side, it was a good performance against Bowling Green. Got to give them credit. But I do think this is a bit of a down year for Bowling Green. And Southern Miss, there's a lot of question marks with this roster. On paper, you see some of these names like Andre Curbelo. He used to be a big name in the Power 5 basketball with Illinois especially, but I still just don't think that this team has enough depth. When you look at the bench, I think UAB has a big-time advantage. I think they pull away late in the second half to win and cover this number. So give me UAB, I'll lay the points. Next up, we see Jacksonville and Florida. This one's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. We backed the Florida Gators in their first game of the season against USF. It was a close one for quite a while, and USF actually had a nice lead for a moment there, but Florida was able to prevail and win and cover the number 98-83. And I mentioned you don't want to overreact to these first games, and you say, oh, Florida won big, maybe lay off them in the second game. But for me, I didn't think they won big enough. When you look at the numbers in that game, for the fact that the Gators scored 98 points despite just making 5 3-pointers, they were miserable from three, sub 20% from the perimeter for a decent three-point shooting team from last year with guys like Walter Clayton returning. I think that shows you how dangerous this Gators offense is going to be, because they're going to make some shots from the perimeter. They're going to continue to dominate defenses, and I think this is a team that's going to score in the upper 80s per game this season, especially in non-conference play. maybe, facing some SEC defenses and later on in the season, that number will start to shrink. But this is a very potent offense. The defense still has some question marks, but I mean, if they're putting up 98 points against solid teams like USF, I could see them scoring in the triple digits against a team like Jacksonville. Maybe the pace of play isn't fast enough for them to get there because Jacksonville does look to slow the game down offensively. But I still think this is a one-sided game. I was not big on Jacksonville last year, not too high on them this season. I do think they're definitely improved by a good margin. You can see that in their KenPom rating, ranked 182 after last year. They were 273, but not enough for me in this game. And it's a home opener. It's not a neutral site game for the Gators. I think they win their home opener big. I'll lay the points with the Gators. Next up, it's Northern Iowa hosting Milwaukee. This one's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. I think it's going to be one of the better games on the board, and I think it's going to be a really competitive game down to the final possessions, and I like the points here with Milwaukee. I think they're a very live dog, in my opinion. I mean, when you look at Northern Iowa, very talented team. They're going to be another competitive team in the Missouri Valley Conference, as they usually are. Pretty balanced team. I think they're solid backcourt, strong front court as well, but Milwaukee, this is a very experienced team. They returned a good amount of production from last year. They improved. We know a couple years back, or I would say, 3 years ago when the Pat Baldwin experience started, there was a lot of expectations for Milwaukee. They failed to meet most of those, and you had to, rebuild from that. And now Bart Lundy's that coach. Last year, this was a solid team, 20-win team. They were even better in conference play. They went on a run in the Horizon League tournament. They lost to the eventual winners in Oakland. But now this season, there's a lot to like about Milwaukee. The entire starting lineup's filled with seniors. The bench is filled with upperclassmen that are going to be contributing good minutes. And when you've seen their first game, yes, it's a subdivision opponent, so it doesn't tell us too much, but they had 7 guys score in double figures in that ball game. Really impressive stuff for Milwaukee. I think there's a team to watch out for in the Horizon League, so I'm going to take the points with Milwaukee. Next up, we see Nebraska Omaha taking on Stetson. This one's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus as well. Now, this is an interesting matchup because this is a rematch between these two from last year. It was in Omaha, 88-80 in favor of the Mavericks. So Stetson's playing with revenge, playing at home, but this is a really new-look Stetson team. Now, last year was the best season in Stetson program history. They made it to their first NCAA tournament game. They won the A-Sun, played UConn. Not a very good draw, as we know UConn won and covered in every single game of the tournament, but Stetson, a great season for them. Their offense was outstanding. They shot the ball so well from three. They lose a lot of production from that team, but I still think they'll be competitive in the A-Sun, but more so offensively. I think the defense is a major question mark, and last year was ranked 341st in adjusted defensive efficiency in their first game of this season against a subdivision team. It's not Division II, not Division III. It was New College, Florida. They gave up 75 points in that game. They scored 94, but giving up 75 is alarming. On the other side, you got Omaha. Similarly, they played a subdivision opponent in Mid-America Christian, not Division II or Division III. Giving up 69 points in that game is also a concern for me. So right off the bat, I don't really trust either of these defenses. We know last year's game was super high scoring. And when you look at college basketball in general so far, it's going to change as the season goes along. But so far through the first few days, the overs have just been crushing it. If you've been taking the over in every game, you've been up big so far in college basketball. Not suggesting you do that going forward because the markets are definitely going to correct themselves. But in this spot, I think it's reasonable to take the over here. So I'm on the over between Stetson and Nebraska Omaha. And that's it. Those are the games in college basketball for Thursday. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Put those college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.